What does it mean to live life to the fullest, train to your potential, and perform at your best?
Leave nothing on the table. That's a non-negotiable, is that I strive to be better every day. Because if I'm not on top of my game, how's anybody else going to follow me down the road?
Keep demanding more of yourself to live up to that potential and to stay hungry.
Training is progress. You know, when I look at the word training, I think of steps, baby steps to get somewhere that you want to be. And that is basically your life journey.
It's a mindset in itself, man. It's like, it's not just about, I know that for you, a lot of that's about the physical, but we're constantly in training, whether it's growing our skill sets, whether it's growing our physical bodies, whether it's growing our relationships, whatever. And all of that's a training ground. And that kind of goes back to the mindset that we just talked about.
You underestimate yourself and you don't even start. But then once you start, you often surpass what you thought you could do.
Perform at your best, mate. That's sort of what life is all about. You know, I want to have the knowledge, I want to have the fitness, the health, the ambition and drive that no matter what comes along, when that next phone call comes, I can just say yes. I don't have to worry. Just go and do it.
Hey guys, just before we get today's episode underway, I just want to mention that this was my first ever in-person interview for the podcast. So I was kind of figuring out how to set up my equipment and how to best manipulate the variables to get the best audio quality. So in today's episode, we speak to John Hutchinson, who is the head boxing coach at Tiger Muay Thai and also works with Petr Yan. And this was a great conversation that we had in a cafe, so you will hear a little bit of background noise. I've done my best to minimize that noise so you can get the most out of the conversation. I'm also filming these interviews as well, and I had some technical issues, so we had to go back and redo about 20 minutes of that. You'll be able to find that video up on my YouTube channel at Performance Functional Training. Let's get this episode underway. Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome to this episode of the Live Train Perform podcast. I'm your host, Sean Kober, and joining me is my man, John Hutchinson, who is the head boxing coach at the world-renowned Tiger Muay Thai and MMA training camp based in Phuket, Thailand. Johnboy, how are you, bro?
I'm all good, thank you, Sean.
Good, mate. I've been looking forward to having this conversation with you for a while, man. We've tried to tee this up a couple of times. One of those times was whilst you were in Miami, Florida with Petr Yan, whilst he was going through his fight camp for his title defense against Aljamain Sterling. Unfortunately, that interview didn't work out and the fight didn't go to plan, but that's something we'll dive into later on in today's session. First of all, mate, can you give my listeners a quick and dirty introduction to yourself?
Yeah, so I'm a former professional boxer. Boxing was my background in Ireland. Moved over to the UK and all around the world boxing. Ended up in Tiger Muay Thai and soon transitioned into coaching a few years later, and I'm here since then.
Yeah, nice. Those who've been listening for a while will know that I also work at Tiger Muay Thai, so Johnny and I have been working together for three and a half years or something now.
Yeah.
So we both work at Tiger Muay Thai, but we've also worked together with multiple athletes across multiple combat sport organizations right around the world. So we're going to be talking about some of the principles that we've implemented into training camps with fighters and how we've also worked together to complement each other's skills. So we've also trained together. I was training Johnny for one of his fights, and he's been putting me through my paces with boxing as well. So
Johnny, one step.
Johnny, one step. Yeah, good to go, mate. So the first question that I ask anyone that I'm interviewing is to do with Swiss 8. So I'm an ambassador for Swiss 8, which is a proactive mental health program designed by veterans, initially for veterans, but this was basically started after one of the founder's mates committed suicide. And he realised that, you know, we need to get these tools out there to veterans that were struggling with the discharge process and spiralling into, you know, pits of depression, anxiety, PTSD. And that app uses the 8 pillars of health and wellness to schedule in into your day via an app to allow you to be better at life. Now, I've done a full series on the podcast on those Swiss 8 principles, but they include sleep, nutrition, time management, discipline, personal growth, mindfulness, and minimalism. Do any of those principles stand out for you, mate? right now and at different times of your life?
Yeah, discipline. It goes a long way. Like, I've learned through every training camp or whatever parts of life, even for example, just getting up and making your bed in the morning, you feel better that day. You know, I actually learned that in a camp one time. I used to get up and not make my bed, and then I go, hey, discipline, where's the discipline? So things like that, I'm a big starting to change my life more.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's a good answer.
Yeah.
That's basically one of the first things they teach you in the army when you go through recruit training, bro. It's like, make your bed. Because like that's what sets you up for the day. You achieve, you get that small win, man.
Yeah.
And you know, one of my favorite quotes is, if you can't do the little things right, then you can't do the big things right.
It's true.
Yeah, so I love that, man. I think that's really important. Now, discipline's obviously a big one for you at the moment.
Yeah.
Have any of those other principles been more important to you at other times of your life?
Yeah, so rest and recovery, like probably in my earlier stage of my career, I was smashing it, like just the average guy to come to, you see it all the time, Sean.
Yeah.
And I had no structure. It was just like go, burnt out or small injuries or something. But now I understand it, working with the likes of you especially, you know, like it was like blocks of phases. I learned how to, you know, time my work more, and I felt a lot better for it, and I still kind of carry that through now.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Yeah. How did you learn to develop your discipline?
Through coaching and working with, when I was fighting, everybody has desire, everybody's hungry. I just wanted to train non-stop, just training. It didn't matter, Sundays I was training, but as I say, I never had a structure. But then working with, as you move on into more camps, working with smart guys, you know, then I would start to say, whoa, these guys are machines, like, and how I'm training as hard, if not harder. It's just sometimes, I think you always say sometimes less is better, just smarter ways, and then I've kind of grew into that.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. You know, and I was the same, bro. Like when I was younger, you know, I grew up playing rugby. When I joined the army, like I was a high performing sniper in an infantry unit deployed 3 times, right? And you know, my mindset back then was more.
Yeah.
You need to hammer yourself, and if you know, I was training 3 times a day, bro, on top of like working a fucking physical job, you know. And it was interesting because once I actually started working with a proper strength and conditioning coach, like an elite level strength and conditioning coach that was working with professional rugby teams. He gave me a program that I started following, and like he literally changed my mindset around training. And I went from training 3 times a day working a physical job to, you know, training once a day and undulating my intensity of training. You know, doing a heavy session, then a light session the next day, heavy session, light session, focusing on these different adaptations. Bro, that next year, like I dominated on the rugby pitch, man. Like cleaned up at the awards night, highest point scorer, highest try scorer, like best and fairest for the entire competition. And I was like, all right, there's something to this. And, you know, before that, I've been training the same way. I was just hammering myself. So I think discipline, in my mind, changes as you learn, as you grow, as you develop. You know, when you're younger, your discipline is get out of bed at 5 o'clock in the morning, go and run in fucking cold, rainy, shitty weather, you know? And yes, that is important. And that was definitely important when I was in the army. But as I've grown, as I've learned, as I've picked up these different methods, improve my understanding of strength and conditioning, which includes recovery. Now it takes me a lot more discipline to not train and not hammer myself than it is to hammer myself, because that's the habit. That's what I've just ingrained for so long in my life. Yeah,
it's funny you say that. Like I remember in Ireland, used to get up in the morning and it'd be cold back there when it'd snow in the winter. I used to be like the first footprints in the snow, and I'd think, whoa, you know, not to say it was going to make me any fitter getting up that time in the morning. I'd say being young, just thinking, you had to be up. But what it always give you also was a mental edge.
Yeah, for
you know,
sure.
you know you done it. Like in your head, you're going into a fight. So you might not be any fitter from it, but it was like, I've been doing that, and it gave me a mental edge. But as you get older, you get smarter. You know, like sometimes your body's feeling it, you know, like if you're younger, you just get up and smash it anyway. But then you learn, you grow with it,
Yeah.
and a lot fresher for it.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. You know, I definitely think there's some benefits to. I say this all the time on the podcast, bro. Like, I definitely think there's some benefits to fucking doing difficult shit
Yeah,
when you don't feel like it, right?
Yeah.
Like, as you said, it builds that mental resilience, it builds that toughness.
Yeah.
But there comes a point of diminishing returns where, you know, you're doing more and more and more, and you just end up wearing your body down.
Yeah.
Now your body starts talking to you. Now you're waking up really tired. You're needing to sleep through the day. You need an extra 4 coffees to get through the day.
Yeah.
You know, your joints start hurting. You go
Yeah.
through this all the time, man. Like,
Yeah.
you're holding pads for like some absolute killers, bro. Some big hitting fighters, mate. You're holding pads for them. Your elbows flare up all the time, right?
yeah. So like when I started training with you, like I had big problems with my shoulders. I had tears in my shoulders. I thought I was gonna have to get an operation. And then, because through my career, I didn't do much like conditioning. I was old school, you know, just
Yeah,
running.
we'll talk about that in a moment, bro.
Yeah. But when I was training with you, and you showed me, like, introduced me, like the kettlebells, like not for a training program, but like a warm up.
Yeah, man.
And,
it's like rehabilitation, prehabilitation.
Yeah. So now it's something I carry through all the time now. If I had kept going the way I was going, I don't think I'd be coaching today. I was in pain, my shoulders were ripped. I was going to bed at night time, my arms over my head and just flaring up, because that's another thing we'll talk about too. Like, when I first started coaching, I was like one of the busiest coaches there. I was like 6-7 people a day, like, and I was teaching them how to punch, and I was going to bed at night time. But now I get smarter. I know how to wake up in the morning and go to my kettlebell routine. I have a kettlebell in the house, and if I miss one day of it, I can feel like,
notice it.
Yeah, I notice it.
Yeah.
I can notice the impact. I notice like I'm not warming up before it. So as a coach, I warm up before my sessions as well. I don't just jump into it, you know.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Let's talk about how you ended up at Tiger. So you're a pro fighter. You're fighting around the world.
Yeah.
When was the first time you came to Thailand, and then what brought you back the second time or the next time?
Well, I first came here when I was 20. There was 4 of us. We were flying to Australia. We took a year out to go to Australia, and just to stop off.
Irish lads?
Yeah, all Irish lads. And one Irish girl. We were a big group of us.
Just doing Irish pub crawls around Aussie,
we
mate?
actually we stopped in Batong, you know. So it was like a brilliant week. It was like, I think it was actually 4 days, and then on to Sydney.
You would be like, get me the fuck out of this place.
But it was funny, as I said to my friends there, I said it in a strange way. I was like, I'm going to live here someday. I loved it. So I flew back to Sydney. I loved Australia and all. But I was always into my training. I loved training. And over there, it was like a wake up to reality. It was like, whoa, I was over working hard in construction, and it's hard living over there, and I wasn't training as much. I was out with my friends and all.
Yeah,
and I
started to living that lifestyle, bro.
Yeah, and I was starting to feel a bit groggy, you know. I just missed training. I got playing soccer over there, played every Sunday. It was keeping me fit, but I just missed boxing. So I go, right, I'm going back to Ireland to box, and then I'm going to have a training camp in Thailand first.
Were you already pro then?
No, it's still amateur then.
Yeah.
So I came over here. This would kind of set me off professional then. So I came over here. I think I came for 4 months, like as a 3-month visa, and then I extend one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my plan was 3, but I done 4.
Mm-hmm.
And in that time, I was here training about 1 week, 2 weeks. I was in Super Rahway and Rahway.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no boxing. They're all looking at me with shoes and all, you know.
Muay Thai gym.
Yeah. So it was like a real strict Muay Thai at that time, you know.
Yeah.
Even MMA or nothing had picked up here. So
what year was this?
So I think it was 2000 and when was it? 2010, I think.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Decade ago, mate.
Yeah, so they were like looking at me. Oh, shoes in the mat, you know. And then I was crazy. It was a great experience, and you know, the Thai ways is like run twice a day every training session. And I'm just used to running once. And I wouldn't run the afternoon one because it was way too hot, like, for an Irishman, you know. They're like, go run, go run, go run. And I remember I said to the guys one day, I'm not running that. I put a bit of water on my t-shirt and came back. And I knew I was up there, go run now, like. But I just remembered, anyways, 1 or 2 weeks I had a fight there. And over here, it's like the next thing, the professional, even though it's not in your record, it's like small gloves. They wrap big plasters into your hands. Like they're like, you ever see where they wrap their hands here, Sean? Yeah, it's dangerous. Like it will be banned anywhere else. So
not in Thailand.
I had 2 fights here, and I was just putting them to sleep. Like the first round, I think it was like 30 seconds. I don't know where the guy was from. I was like, whoa! But then I fought in Bangla. Yeah, the famous Bangla down there, you know. So normally that's just like strict Muay Thai. Yeah. But there had been a guy over here from Sheffield in the UK training boxing. Well, he is a boxer, but he was here for training camp. And they found out that I was here and he was here, and they matched us up on a big show and thingy. I don't know who was the main event, but it was big. It was packed. Yeah. And I remember the feeling, like, and I had a good support here, like, as well. Because you know what this community is like. It's a friendly kind of community.
Yeah, for sure. All the expats stick together, especially the Irish, mate.
Yeah. And so I just never forget that feeling. Bangla was all great stadium. And then I went down and I boxed really good, and I stopped him in the 2nd or 3rd round. And that was it. Then I went back to Ireland, started training amateur, and then we're putting on the headgears and the gloves again. And I go, this ain't me. I don't like this. It was like, I got a taste of something I liked. Yeah. So then I got a phone call from a guy who said, do you want to come and train in England with me? So I went to Birmingham City. I started training professional there. I was mixing with the professionals, and bit by bit it just went from there then, and that was the taste of professional boxing for me. Yeah. And I've travelled the world with boxing now. I think if I had 1 more fight or 2, I think there's a guy, Peter McDonough, 3-time Irish champion. There's 1 more fight to me. Like, he's fought all over the world. He has a record for the Irish guy that's fought everywhere. I need 1 more fight, but I'm not going to fight now, you know.
So you've retired from boxing now?
Yeah, I won't fight now. It's one of the ore, isn't it? I found that it took me a long time to realise that.
Yeah, that's something we'll dive into in a moment. Before that, though, I want to ask about. So you held a belt as well, didn't you? Was it WBA Oceania title?
Yeah, WBF. When I was younger, I won the Celtic title as well. Like, you know, you go the Irish route, and then I fought for the Irish title. I took it like a bit. That was my first loss as a professional. Fought Peter McDonough, who was 3-time Irish champion. I remember getting a phone call for it because I had no real manager and all. And I was like, we fight Peter McDonough. Of course, the will Irish title. Like, from jumping from 4 rounds to a 10-round fight. The fight was good. Like, I learned a lot from that. You know, even though if I was ever looking after a fighter, I'd go, whoa, it's not the time. You know how to build a guy. So I lost some points in that, and I learned a lot. It made me go wanting to explore the world and go to America to learn, to get better, to come back and win that belt. I never got to fight for that belt again, but I went down the next belt I won was in Australia, WBF. Then I fought for the WBC in Sydney. That was my last fight there. It was like 3 years ago in Sydney. It was St. Patrick's Day.
I remember that. It was St. Paddy's Day, wasn't it? Yeah.
And that's when I started training you after that. Like,
really. I remember you were kind of like just rolled into Tiger, and I was fairly new as well. Yeah. And then we started chatting, and I was like, hey man, you know, come and do a training session. And then I put you through like a conditioning session, and you're like, bro, that was sick, man. And you're like, I need to go back to Australia and fight this dude.
That's why I came back, because I remember training. I done 1 session with you, Sean, for the belt I won beforehand, and I felt I still got the video of that somewhere. It was hard. I go, whoa, this is the hardest session. Normally you'd have time to go over stuff, but I was leaving. Yeah. And I was like, you go, look, well, this is what I've only got time for. And I remember, I was like, whoa. But I won
I
that.
remember you saying to me after that session, you're like, fuck man, I've never felt like I felt that in the ring, but I've never felt that outside of the ring. And he goes, that's the closest I've felt in training to what it's like being in a fight.
So true. Conditioning really opened from that day on, it opened my eyes to conditioning. Like, I know the importance of it now. It's like something I didn't have. I wish I had earlier.
Man. Yeah,
so now,
I mean, you grew up with old school.
Yeah, very old school.
Like lots of road runs.
Yeah.
10 rounds on the bag and
that was it.
Pads.
Like Irish ways, it's like out running. It's old school. There's not much conditioning. You're told them weights slow you down. That's what you've been told.
You don't want to lift weights because then you get big and bulky, and it'll slow you down and blah blah blah.
As I say, you learn with every camp. You learn you can't beat travel, and when you come to Thailand, it opens your eyes. It's you've got the best coaches in the world around here. You're like, whoa, this guy's been around the world. He's smart in this area. Or this guy's got his area where he's smart at. It's like, whoa, you're learning as a team. It's very good.
Yeah. And you're always picking and choosing and taking things from everyone, man, and applying it to your own training, your own coaching as well.
That's it. As coaches, we don't stop growing. We're always learning.
Yeah, 100%. Now, what happened in that fight?
My last fight, So it was a bit controversial, like, because I was told before I went there, I was fighting a guy called Craig Park, like he represented the Olympics now in Australia, and he goes, basically he was the home fighter, and he says, John, you're like a long way from home here, you gotta really, you gotta knock him out, and I was like, of course, no problem, probably looking at it the wrong way. I didn't think none of it. So when I went there, I went for a camp up to Brisbane, up to Jeff Horn and Dennis Hogan. So I had top sparring up there, everything sorted, and went to the fight, got there, and I think it was actually the second round of pinged him, and I've dropped him, and there was 13 seconds cut short of the round, but I didn't know at the time.
Towards the end of the round, they ended up ringing the bell.
Yeah, so they kind of save him. Fuck. So we didn't know at the time. We didn't look at that, but then I can't remember. They took a point off me for something so silly, and then bits and bits add up. You can nearly tell in the fight when you're feeling comfortable.
Yeah.
And I just felt comfortable. I knew I won it. I was like, St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
Oh, the Irish was there. I just knew I had it.
Yeah.
And then when they called it a draw, like everybody booed, and I was like, whoa, it was a bad feeling. But then I just remember one judge gave it to me by 4, one judge a draw, and one judge, I don't know what he was looking at. They give it to him. So that was it. I had a few things after that. Then I had to go back to Ireland and all. That's when my father died the day after, so I had to fly back, and just a bit from there I never got back in there, but I wanted to fight again. I wasn't say I stopped fighting now, because I reached out to you.
Yeah.
Because in that fight, you can look at bits everywhere. It was a 10-round fight. As I say, I was a fit guy, but not conditioned. I was like, wow.
You're aerobically fit.
Aerobically
you could
fit.
go for long periods, but...
So I just thought, I remembered your last session. I was like, if I get a good bit of work in there, I can get in the rematch, which he promised me. I said, I'm gonna, and I didn't like him then from something smart he said after it. And I remember saying to you, Sean, I'm gonna put this guy away. This is where the Johnny wants to.
I remember that, man. Yeah, I remember touching base with you and hearing that your old man had passed away. You're going back to Ireland. I was like, man, fuck, so sorry to hear, bro. And then, you came back into Tiger, and you're like, all right, I've got some bad blood with this dude. I'm going to fucking knock him out. I want to work with you. So we started working a couple times a week, focusing on strength and conditioning, and focusing on strength, endurance, building some stability, working on your mobility, getting your shoulders moving properly, adding some snap into your punches, your jumps, like speed, power, energy system conditioning, etc. And man, I'm not sure what your point of view was, but I saw massive improvements in how you're moving, but also like your athletic ability improved dramatically.
Yeah, and I remember the photo one day. Maybe you spent a bit on my shoulder, Sean.
Yeah.
Rubbing out my shoulders, like, and one was all jammed up and tight.
Yep.
And then from the one session, it was like how loose and stretch it was.
So for the listeners, you know, if you've seen Johnny's posture, he's a boxer like most fighters. You know, their shoulders are rolled forward. They've got imbalances, muscular dysfunction, etc. So, you know, I noticed this and I was like, hey, what hurts? And I think you're coming back from a rotator cuff injury.
Yeah,
or something.
because in that fight, I teared it again. So I remember the slight tear in the shoulder.
Yeah.
I was always damaging my shoulder.
Yeah. So we spent probably only like 30 minutes or something just going through some mobility work, doing some soft tissue work, loosen up the shoulder, do some activation work on the back, did some banded distractions.
Yeah.
Took a before and after photo, and it was like a massive difference in your shoulder range of movement, man.
It's crazy. And do you remember the first you built a face for me and you said, right, let's go on I'm a boxer and you always see me in shoes, like, right, take your shoes off.
Like, take your shoes off,
I
Johnny.
was like, what is it? And then I remember when out the steps outside, it's like, right, let's jump up these steps, and I thought I was going to hit my toes on. I was going one step, this is where Johnny one step comes in.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, I didn't have the power in my legs to just spring up high. And then you go back in, I think the circuit was the jumps to deadlifts to...
we did a strength exercise, which was either some form of deadlift or a squat. I think we're doing split squats with the jumps.
Yeah.
So it was contrast training. So we're doing a heavy lift, which was a split squat, and then we went into our power-based movement, which was a jump. Yeah, and then we went into our upper body work. Same. We're doing a heavy movement, then a light, fast movement.
And this was another thing is, like, we talk about mental edge as well. Even though I didn't get that fight, I remember throwing the ball, or throwing to hit the roof.
The med ball.
I couldn't touch the roof.
Yeah.
I think in the space of, I don't know if it was 3 or 4 weeks, because we were chipping away nice and steady, like. Yeah. Was it 2 or 3 times a week? I don't even remember.
Yeah, twice a week. Twice a week. We're training Tuesday, Thursday, man. And again, I speak about progressive overload. Anyone that's been listening to the podcast for a while, progressive overload. We didn't do all of those things together. It was like, I teach you how to do this, then I teach you how to do this, then I teach you how to do this, then I teach you how to do this. Then we combine these 2 lower body exercises. Then we combine these 2 upper body exercises. Then we, you know, so, and then over the course of, you know, a month, then we're like running that like circuit style, and it worked out perfect, because then you're doing like, you know, some strength-based lower body movement, then some power-based lower body movement, strength-based upper body movement, strength-based power-based upper body movement, and that was taking us, and then some core-based work, and that was taking us 3 minutes. You were training for a 10-round fight, 3-minute rounds, right? So our training was like specific, and I remember you saying like, man, I'm gonna knock this motherfucker out. It feels so good.
Yeah, as I said, I felt brilliant. I was like, I wanted that fight so bad. It never happened again. I don't know what happened, didn't materialize, but I wish it had. It was the best I ever felt, because my whole career I haven't done that. And then from the space of 3 weeks, from going from 1 step to 3 steps, or then from hitting the roof with a ball and deadlifting and feeling solid, I was like, wow, I'm going to put it on this guy.
And how were your shoulders as well? Because you'd been dealing with like shoulder and elbow injuries
I remember you trying to teach me a Turkish get up, and I couldn't even put my arm on the ground. The sharp pain in my, like, from the tear.
Yeah.
And slowly, that sharp pain had gone. It was more stable. Like when I was lifting kettlebell over my shoulder, a bad shoulder movement, I was shaking, those stability. And then I just swinging solid. Like I always hear you talking about having breaks, isn't it? In the back of this. So I felt brilliant. Like, and they feel great now. My shoulders are better now than was ever fighting, and that's because I use them same drills every day.
Yeah, you're doing the maintenance work, man. Yeah, that's the important thing, eh? So from there you transition into coaching. Like, how did that come about that you started working with fighters?
I've always loved coaching, Sean. I had like my own little, just like a small gym out the side of the house in Ireland, done fitness classes, boxing. I've always loved it. I was coaching over in MTK Marbella. I was a fighter there, but I ended up doing a lot of boxing classes.
You did a training camp with Billy Joe Saunders there, right?
Yeah, so I was signed with MTK and I was based in Marbella, and Billy Joe, all them fighters, it was coming constantly and going. So, you know, it was like another Tiger Muay Thai, but just strict boxing there.
Yeah.
So it was a great camp, and I ended up coaching there as well. So I really got a feel for coaching there. I always loved coaching. And then I came to Tiger. Sam Baston was here, and Sam introduced me into Tiger, and then me and him clicked, and I started helping Sam, and I went from there. And I was still a fighter at the time, and I remember guys calling me, hey coach, and it felt weird, you know, like I'm not a coach yet, you know. I was like, I'm still a fighter. I was starting to work with a few guys, and it just got crazy, like Sean. And then I was like, whoa, I really like this, and I was seeing people improve, and I was loving it.
That's such a good feeling, man. Is like when people are putting the time, energy, and effort in, and they're consistent, and then you see the difference from like, you know, week 1 to week 3 to week 6, man. It's really cool. It's really rewarding, hey.
And I was going home, and I was like, whoa, I was watching videos on YouTube, and I wanted to make them better, but I always had my own structure from all the guys I trained with and what I liked. But as I say, as a coach, you always want to be better, and you knew what worked for them, or I loved it. And that was something I really got passionate about. Coming into fighting again, I was like getting a phone call to go into camp to train, and then I remember guys, I was going away to Australia to fight again, and I remember guys going, hey, will you be here to train me here? And I was like, oh, I'm going away to camp. So I had to kind of pick and choose. I was getting mixed up. I got offered a job then with Tiger. I think I actually went to Australia, and I was like, it made me think then.
I remember you did go back to Australia because you had a sponsor there, right?
Yeah, I had a sponsor.
Who organised like your visa and everything.
The 457 big visa.
Yeah.
They just paid good money for me to get me set up in Australia. They both happened at the same time. I got offered a job in Tiger. I'm thinking, I'm kind of like a loyal guy. I didn't want to let this guy down. He meant the world to me.
Yeah.
So I actually flew to Australia. I was going to turn Tiger down. I hope they don't hear that now.
Yeah, no, I know the story, man. I know the story.
So,
because I was like, oh man, it sucks that you're going back to Australia. And you're like, I remember you saying like, this guy's sorted me out, man. He's looked after me for a long period of time. Like I'm a loyal guy. I'm gonna go back, and I remember you being there for a while, and then you said to him like, oh man, this is not for me. I want to go back to Thailand.
I lasted about a week there that time, and I just remember him saying to me, he goes, John, your friendship to me is more than money. He goes, go and chase your dream, like, and at least I went back and showed me respect. And
hey, that's a good friend, man.
Yeah, if he's listening to this, Martin O'Brien, he'll know.
Yeah, that's fucking awesome, man. Like, because you were like, I need to do the right thing by this guy, but then because you did that, he was also like, I need to do the right thing by this guy. So it was like that mutual respect thing, man. If you had have said, like, if you had called him up and gone, hey, I've got this opportunity at Tiger, I'm going to turn you down, like, that would have potentially, you know, soured the relationship a little bit.
I know. I'm glad I went and done that now, and it led to me going, I'm not just taking this job to be part-time. I'm like, I want to, like, really grow. And before COVID, you know how busy Tiger was, like, and we had a solid team and setup going there. And we're just starting to really grow as coaches and who we wanted to be. It was still hard. I had to ban myself from hitting pads, and I started to hit pads with you know, our Muay Thai coach. And I had a steady little program going with him, and started to feel good, and I'd be calling guys out or setting up fight. And then I was like, this guy wants to get trained, or do you fight? I was like, I banned myself from punching. Remember that time I said, I can't hit the pads, I can't hit the bag, or I'm going to fight.
Yeah, goes back to that discipline again, bro. It's like you had to make that decision, right?
Yeah, so I just blocked myself, and then I couldn't really get the happy balance to train in the gal. I got into a bit of yoga now. I was loving the yoga, doing the yoga, night yoga and Tiger, and I loved it. And still, it's a big void for something you miss all your life. Then the conditioning with you, I was chipping away.
Yeah.
But as I say, I kept feeling good, and I wanted to fight again.
Yeah, for sure, man. So when you made that decision to transition from fighting to coaching, and you kind of stopped your own training, knowing that if you kept training, you'd want to keep fighting again. I guess you kind of changed the tide in the direction that you wanted to move in. Was there, or let's talk about Petr Yan. So anyone that's listening, most people are going to know who Petr Yan is, but if they don't, you know, he's been a sponsored fighter at Tiger for a long time, man. You know, Tiger's put a lot of time, energy, and effort into him. All the coaches that he's worked with, you know, he's also spent a lot of time dedicating himself to growing and developing at Tiger. I'd finished coaching a combat conditioning session, 9:30 session, and I was walking out the gym. I was at the front office where the stairs are, and he drove past on his motorbike, and he stopped, and he looked at me and goes, he'd just been in the session, and he stopped and he looked at me and he goes, "Coach, I want to work with you." And I was like, "All right, man." I was like, "Are you working with any other coaches at the moment?" He goes, "Oh, I work with the other coach, but rehab finished." And I was like, "Okay, like you tell them that you're going to work with me, blah, blah. I'll go and have a chat to Sayat now." So I went and had a chat to Sayat. I was like, "Hey man, what's going on?" And Sayat's like, "Oh, this dude's just signed a contract with the UFC. He's going to be debuting in 3 months' time in Singapore. You know, blah, blah, blah. I want to get some work with you." And I was like, "All right, sweet, let's rock and roll." And then I think you started working with him for that camp as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I think it was one session. You introduced me with him. See that you were all booked your flights. You were going to Singapore now, and I'd met Peter before. I'd just seen him a few times in a restaurant, and I knew of him, but I always heard you talking about Peter all the time.
Yeah.
So it was actually you that was telling me about him, and then I just remember him coming up to me. It was just one session, I think, that time. It was like, "Hey coach," same thing. And my accent at the time, I know it's slowed down now.
Man, I remember the first time when I first started interacting with you, man. If I spoke to you like every day or a couple times a week, I understood your accent. But if I hadn't spoken to you for like 2 weeks, I was like, "What the fuck did he just say?"
No, I think I'm starting to slow down a bit now. But at the start, it was a struggle for everyone.
Yeah.
But this went from there. Similar to you, Sean. You know, we had a program that worked well together. You know, a couple of fighters were working with you, a couple of guys, or I had a couple of guys that was going in a circle.
Yeah.
You know, and it went from there.
And dude, I think this is such a cool and unique relationship as well, because as I said, like you were teaching me how to box, bro, and I'm like a fucking robot, man. Like, you know, you were just like picking me to pieces, and I was like, "I want you to coach me, man. I want you to like teach me the fundamentals. I want you to teach me the basics. Like, I want to learn. I want to get better. Like, I'm an absolute beginner in this field, you know." And then when I was training you, it was the same thing. Like, it was that mutual respect. And the cool thing was, like, I could then change how I was communicating and how I was putting my program together by what you were teaching me. So I was like, all right, as a fighter, we need good center of gravity management. We need good balance. We need to be able to produce high amounts of force. We need to be able to blah, 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 blah. Yeah. You know, so what you were teaching me was then carrying over to what I was then teaching you, which then bled over into working with other fighters. Yeah. I remember before that, Petr Yan fought Jose Aldo for the bantamweight title, man. Yeah. You know, something that we were speaking about was, you're like, I need to get him to sit down on his punches a little bit more. And I was like, yeah, I agree, man, because he's getting up a little bit high, you know, he's losing a little bit of power there. So my training was, hey, let's produce high amounts of force, form, but let's get you to sit down, manage that center of gravity a little bit more. And I was doing some like Olympic lifting with him, bro, and I never Olympic lift with any of my athletes, any of my clients, but I've been working with the dude for, 3.5 years now, and he was at a level to be able to do that. And I was like, all right, this is what we're going to do, boom, boom. Where he's producing massive amounts of force, but also being able to like center himself, balance himself, manage his center of gravity, so then he can follow up.
As I say, that camp was great. There was no injuries or nothing. Jose Aldo is as tough as you'll get, like, and you could hit him with a truck and he will come. Petr Yan hitting him, the power, the explosive power he had. Only for that referee should have been stopping that quicker. Like, 100%. It took 5 years of his life.
Shouldn't be laughing about that, but it's true.
It is true. Like, I don't know what I was thinking. But this camp, this last one in Miami for Aljamain, you know, I said it to Peter, like, big miss, we missed their conditioning there, you know when I would say for all this last fights, it's worked well together. It's got that explosive power there, you know. You can teach them how to strike, but if that power ain't there, that snap just wasn't there for Aljamain. Even though it was a great performance, take nothing away, it was a great camp, everything's there. I do think a good solid program conditioning would like lift him power up for this guy next time.
Yeah, it's been cool, man. Obviously working together with him through, or with you for him through like the multiple camps and, you know, the different opponents that he's facing, and the different focus. So I heard you on a podcast recently saying that you, for the Aljamain fight, you weren't focusing on the boxing anywhere near as much because Aljamain's a ground guy. So, you know, he's going to grapple, he's going to take him down, he's going to grapple. So, you know, you guys were training at American Top Team, focus more on the grappling side of things, you know, whereas for the Aldo fight, lots of striking, lots of boxing, man. Same with Faber, right? And it's the same thing with, you know, my strength and conditioning. The first couple of fights, I think I've trained him for like 5 of his 8 UFC fights. First couple of fights was just like, he's a new athlete, I don't know him very well. It's about like understanding how he moves, you know, where his strengths are, where his weaknesses are, any imbalances, dysfunction. You know, we're just building the foundation. We're building strength, speed, power, aerobic capacity, anaerobic energy system, you know, all of the skills, balance, coordination, timing, accuracy, center of gravity management, blah, blah, blah. It was all about like assessing all that stuff, building a solid foundation. And then as we progressed through the different fight camps, as he went through the ranks, all right, now he's fighting John Dodson. All right, this dude's fast, so we need to focus on increasing his speed. And power, right? Then when he fought Jimmy Rivera, it was like, all right, Jimmy's a grappler. He's going to come at him. He's going to try and fucking wrestle him. Right? Let's work on his speed and anaerobic system, right? That explosive snap, that power. Then when he fought Faber, all right, let's focus on a little bit more strength. Then when he fought Aldo, all right, let's focus on, you know, mostly power. A little bit of speed, a little bit of strength, but mostly power production and the anaerobic energy system, so that, you know, he's able to hit those high intensity efforts one after the other. Something I've noticed actually is, you know, people, you would have heard this before, people say Petr Yan gets better as the fight goes on. Right? I don't necessarily agree with that. I think Yan stays the same, but his opponents,
they don't.
They deplete, man. And that's because a lot of the work that I do with him, particularly in recent fights, has been like that anaerobic energy system work. Like I'll do some sprint based work, some power based work, some fucking like highly anaerobic based work, that short, sharp energy system, high intensity, max effort, right? Then long rest periods as we get closer to the fight, then improve his endurance, right? So he's able to replenish that energy system over and over and over again. So you'll see in the Aldo fight, it was like explosive, blah, 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 sat back, let that aerobic system recover that anaerobic system, then again, man.
And super fresh, like, you know, he's not smashing the ground. And so that's the main thing with Peter. Like, you're the one that always tells me, like, if you see his head dragging or the feet saying,
dragging his heels,
you'd tell me, like, John, it was tired then training, knock it back a bit. In this last camp, you know, we hadn't none of that, even though we all know each other, we know people's body language, but I think conditioning was a big miss in this last camp. He looked great, he learned a lot, looked brilliant, done the job, and we know what he can do in the next one even better, so that's what makes it more interesting.
It's interesting, man. Like, I feel that unfortunately, like, the strength and conditioning side is not taken as seriously as like the skills components. Obviously, you know, he needs to be a good striker, he needs to have good Muay Thai, he needs to be able to clinch, he needs to be able to wrestle, he needs to be able to grapple, you know, but my job is to improve his strength, speed, power, energy systems, center of gravity management, balance, coordination, timing, accuracy. And what I'm doing is then adding to your session, right? If what I'm teaching him in my session can carry over to your session. Now he's able to get a lot more out of your training. Likewise, when he goes and trains with George. Likewise, when he trains with Frank. Likewise, when he trains with Alex, right? Like, you know, what I'm doing should be complementing what you guys are doing. You know, not taking away from it. So that's why I'm always like, hey, let's make sure we manage his energy levels. And, you know, I'm going to do enough to elicit the response that I want, but not so much that now I'm taking away from his training session with you. Because if he comes into your training session, he's training with you on like a Thursday afternoon, I've trained him on a Thursday morning and I've fucking hammered him too hard. Now he can't hold his hands up, he's practicing shitty technique, then I've done too much, man. And now I'm taking away from your ability to train him how you want.
That's smart work. And I remember you saying too, and to me from coaching as well, you know Johnny Betts, don't you? And he was like one of the first real fighters to start working with Tiger, like old school Johnny Betts. You remember Johnny, no boxing, this is
no
tough
head
and
movement.
rough, no head movement.
Just walk forward, just swinging
totally
elbows
opposite
and
what I
knees.
would normally work with, you know. But from like for a full year, because he lives here, 2 times a week, constantly, and
You good for time?
Oh yeah, constantly, and 2 times a week. And the improvements, and they're all calling them body bag bets. He was dropping guys with body shots. He was chopping them with his hands. You know, as I say, could you imagine you get Peter or whatever fighter you get for maybe 4 weeks or the 8 weeks? If you had a guy that says, I'm going to work on this for, not to smash him because he's not fighting for like 3 or 4 months time, but you had that solid long camp with him steady. Could you imagine what you could do in that long time?
Build the foundation, bro. And this is what I'm doing with the Team Envisage guys, right? It's like, you know, Claudia, man, like she's been at, I don't know how long she's been at Tiger, but since the almost 4 years that I've been there, I've seen her progress the most in the last like 8 months that I've been working with her. She's progressed more in the last 8 months than she did in the last, you know, 3.5 years that I've seen her.
100%.
And that's because, you know, we're working on the other areas. Most fighters just work with a coach during fight camp. You know, they're 8 weeks out from a fight. All right, now it's time to start working with a coach. Now it's time to get in shape. Now it's time to work on my skills. Now it's time to, you know, manage my diet, my weight, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, man, you know, one thing that I've taken away from team sports, I grew up playing rugby, right? So, and I was a soldier, so I need to be in fucking shape all year round, man. Right? So I could do my job, so I could perform 1 on the battlefield, but 2 on the rugby pitch, right? So I'm using those models from team sports and team-based environments, and I'm simply just implementing that into, you know, into these fighters, into their lives, man, so that, you know, we're making sure that they're staying injury-free. We're building a solid foundation of strength, speed, power, you know, all of those things that I spoke about earlier. We're building that solid foundation all year round. We're managing their weight. We're probably actually getting them eating more outside of training camp. You know, they're not training as much. They're you know, they're living their life, man. They're flexible with what they're doing. They're not spending all day in the gym, and they're not dieting all year round, because, you know, then if they do that, which most fighters do, then they get into fight camp, they sign a contract, they got a fight in 8 weeks time. Now they're eating 2,000 calories and they're training 3 times a day. Where can we go from there? We got nowhere to pull from. They're 10 kilos overweight. They go, I need to train more. I need to fucking eat less. I need to wear a sweatsuit all the time. Like, they're just affecting their performance. They're affecting their ability to recover. Like, it's just not a smart way of doing it, man. And, you know, as you said, the world has progressed. There's better ways to do things. We can use this science. We can have this like all year round periodized training program, again, which is what I took from being in the military, working with rugby teams, you know, where we've got people in a really good place all year round, cycling through these different adaptations. Then once we sign a contract, we're 8 weeks out. Sweet. All right, now we're eating 3,000 calories. We can start pulling calories. We can start adding some training in. You know, we can start adding a little bit more movement. We can, you know, we've got more options. We've got more tools available to us, and that's something that I'm trying to bring into Tiger that I think, in my opinion, has been missing.
100%. And as you said about Claudia, I believe she should get Fighter of the Year for Tiger. Like, what she's been doing, she's gone under the radar, like, and she's just slow and steady. She's been working with you. She's working with all of us guys, even her boxing, with George. she hadn't been fighting. It's been hard with COVID, but look at her now. You know, she now fair play to her. She's taking her chances, and great to see her more active now, wouldn't it? And see how far she can go.
Yeah, for sure. She messaged me the other day and she told me she's got another fight.
Yeah, she was saying.
Yeah, she's got another fight.
I'm happy for her. Like.
Yeah, she messaged me. She's like, "Coach, can you send me a program?" And I was like, "Look, if you've got coaches over there, I recommend like working with them.
Yeah.
Because you know they're gonna have their own ideas.
Yeah.
And I don't want to send a program over and then you ask them to put you through my program. I'm like, I don't like that shit. You know, because they are not going to understand my reasoning for it. So I'm like, if you've got decent coaches over there, just follow the program.
Yeah. And she can carry through what she's been working on or what she like. Same for like with Peter there when he was over in the thing ATT last time. Like what I liked, they worked on it. There's conditioning. He did not like it. He said, "Look, it's not for me. I don't like it," and he didn't do it. And he carried through what you were teaching him.
Yeah.
You know, the best he could.
Yeah.
You know. So.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hope I haven't ruined him to think that other conditioning coaches are shit because they train different.
You know, Peter's a smart guy. I think he'll know what's good, what's not good. You know, and. But as I say, when you're used to a solid program, you don't change nothing that's broke.
Yeah.
You know, he's been used to that
just
program.
Tweak and refine, man.
That's it. So why change something that's not broken?
Yeah, would have been difficult for him, man, to be in that environment where normally he trains at Tiger. He's got his family around him. You know, it's a good lifestyle here. Trains hard, but then goes to the beach and relaxes, recovers. Got his family. You know, having dinners with his missus. And
it's crazy. People don't see that because people think, you know, he needs a tap in the back, you know, because to leave what you're used to go to a new gym, a new environment, is not his kids there, not his wife there. Like Peter stays in a small circle, letting guys in the circle. You know, it's a lot to take in, and to perform like that the way he done it, he needs a handshake and a tap in the back, doesn't he? You know, it's hard to do them things.
You're on the inside, Johnny. When's the rematch, bro?
You may ask Syed.
I'll ask offline. Mate, we'll start winding up very soon. I know you've got an appointment. I've got an appointment as well. Talk to me about some fighters that you've worked with in the last couple of years that you see with massive potential that you're looking forward to working with in the future and seeing where they go.
Muhammad Mukayev, world class, is one of these special kids that come along and whatever's about them, they stand out, and you can teach them one time and they'll come back the next day even better. They'll go home and study it. I remember calling him in one day to the class, and he was a bit shy that time, and I said, "Hey everybody, this is Muhammad Mukayev. Remember this guy's name, he's the next UFC champion." And I wrote down he'll be able to champion, and it's not hard to see. His coach in England, Dean Garnett, doesn't get enough credit. You know, he's took him from grassroots. You know, he's got a gym over in England helping all the young kids, and then, you know, maybe Muhammad go in a training camp, he'd learn something from this coach, or he'd learn something in Tiger, or he'd learn something in Bahrain, his last one. You know, so they might be getting all the credit for it. Whereas coach back there is a great coach that's letting them go and do this, where coaches don't allow that.
Yeah, that is a great point, man. A good coach is someone who goes, you know what, I don't know everything.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna guide the process. I'm gonna teach you the foundations, but you need to go and work with this coach for your BJJ. You need to go and work with this coach for your kickboxing. You need to go and work with this coach for blah blah blah. Like that's brilliant, man.
So that's what I love about
that's a good coach. It's like you want the best for your fighter, so you're gonna get them to work with the best. A shit coach is someone who's like, I'm gonna control every fucking thing about this person's life.
Yeah, so like a lot of people mention his name now because, you know, he'll be in the UFC this year. He's got contracts and all offered him, and it's not hard to tell how good he's going to be. But like what they forget then, like, you know, they don't see where it's all started for him. What made me think deep in that was because, you know, it's the similar now. I'm working with young Norris here at the minute. Young kid just needs a chance. You know, like, and it'll be the same for me now. I'm hooking them up with BJJ guys and condition. I'm trying to get a plan
Yeah,
for him. I'm
we'll
gonna let him,
talk offline about, you know, the conditioning and
yeah,
how we're going to work
and,
that.
I believe in this kid, and I'm gonna like build a program. I'm gonna let him go around the guys as well. I always want the best for him, you know. Let's say Dean Garnett's done an amazing job with Muhammad. If he rang me up and said, John, we need to work on his boxing for this fight, you know, send him there, any help I'm there for him. And but he's a kid in the future.
That's
like,
that network,
out.
man.
Yeah.
You build a quality network, and you go, all right, this is what my fighter needs. I'm going to send him over to this dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's trust, man. That's respect, eh?
Yeah. So he's definitely a kid to watch out for. For the UFC, he'll be in there this year. I'm excited about him. At the minute now, Tiger's a bit quiet.
Yeah.
So it is. Speaking to Marbek and all, he's got maybe getting his visa back from America now, so looks like he'll be fighting in August. But let's say it's hard to speak now at the minute what's happening to Tiger here. We might have to go away in camps. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
I'd say you'll find out soon about Peter's camp and things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I might have a chat to Sayat, but yeah, it's pretty crazy with, you know, obviously we've had the recent outbreak of COVID in Phuket, so we're not in lockdown, but we've definitely got restrictions, and it's made it harder for people to be able to come back in, which has affected, you know, fighters that are coming in. Tiger's been closed for a month and it's supposed to be opening on the 13th, but to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if it's pushed out to the end of the month again. So yeah, difficult time, man.
I might say enjoying this last few weeks, even though the gym is closed. Like, we all want to be at work and be busy, but I've kind of changed my focus, not now from the fighters isn't here as much, but to the more beginners and intermediate. It's gone crazy. I'm like 3 or 4 people a day. It's keeping me busy. I'm training. I'm love seeing these guys improving. They're texting me going, look coach, thanks, and all. You're happy at night, you know, and it's like, it's giving me a new focus.
Super rewarding, man.
Super rewarding.
And dude, like that's such a cool thing, is that, you know, when you're working with high level athletes, like they're so ingrained with how they do things, it's very difficult to change and tweak technique. You know, so it does seem like you have to put a lot more effort in to elicit the results that you want and see that change, because they're so ingrained. But then when you're working with beginners and intermediate, man, like they haven't had, you know, 10-15 years of building poor patterns or you know, less than optimal patterns, so it's like, you know, they can pick things up fairly quickly, and they learn fairly quickly, and you see the improvements dramatically, bro.
It's great, and it makes you happy, like, and they're happy, and there's something about it. That's coaching, isn't it?
Super rewarding for you, super rewarding for them. That's really cool, man. Last question, mate. I've had you for almost an hour now. I apologize, bro.
No problem.
We'll do 30-40 minutes. So the name of the podcast is Live, Train, Perform, and that stands for live life to the fullest, train to your potential, and perform at your best. What does that mantra mean to you?
Well, we are living life to the fullest because you and me, we've followed our dreams. Like, you know, it's not just been a one-way ticket. It's been hard work and stuff. You know, you get guys go, oh, look, you're living the life over there. But for me to wake up every day and teach boxing and be in one of the biggest fight gyms in the world, I don't class that as work. For me, I get up happy. I go to bed happy. I love what I do. So for me, living life to my fullest is doing what I love.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for coming on the podcast, bro.
No problem.
I definitely look forward to working with you in the future. Much love, man. Cheers, bro.
All right, Sean.
Legend.
Cheers, bye.
And there we have a great conversation with Johnboy. I've really enjoyed working with him in the past, and I really look forward to working with him in the future as well. He is a world-class coach who's fairly new to the game and is only improving with every single fight camp, every single fighter that he's working with. So I'm really looking forward to building that relationship with him and also the fighters that we work alongside to make them better athletes, better strikers, better fighters, better people. If you enjoyed this conversation, please make sure you share it with your friends and family. Give us a tag on the social media. Any 5-star ratings and reviews are much appreciated. Much love, guys. Peace.